Hey guys, I really love reading to my family. It's one of the things that I most look forward to every single day in homeschool is that we have an hour set aside just to read a novel together. So this has really created kind of a conversation point for a lot of things that my kids all have the same experience, that when they're young, I will read specific books to them. I read Narnia to all of my kids as they're young. No matter which kid it was, we just read it over and over again, and that creates something that they can all talk about. And they do. I have heard them discussing different books that we have read at different times with each other, that they now have this in common. It becomes a part of our family culture that we have these books that we read. But even if they're not books that I read to my kids before, maybe I've just discovered them, I still love reading to my family. It is just one of my favorite things. It is something that they are so engaged with. They just really pay attention and they really love it. So I wanted to go over the books that we're going to be reading for Family Read this year. I have one per month. I don't know if we're going to end up reading these faster. Sometimes I can get through as many as 2 a month. We'll just see. I don't know, but these are the original 12. These are the first ones that I've come up with that I think are going to work. And the way that I've organized this is that I've looked at the Well-Educated Heart history. The way that she's done it is she's broken up American history into 12 different segments, all the way from exploration, the people, the Spaniards and everybody who are coming to America and just discovering it, all the way up through modern history. And so each month just has a part of American history that you're looking at. And then she's taken all of world history and said, from the point of view of America, which countries have really impacted what was going on in this point of American history. And so those countries are the ones that you study during that month as well. So when I chose my books for Family Read, I really decided to not make it based on Constitution or science or just things that we're interested in. I said I'm really going to focus these in on history, mostly American history, but there are a couple in there that are world history. And so it might look like a hot mess. Where did you find all of these? But that's my underlying plan in the chaos. That's where it's coming from. That's what I'm trying to accomplish here. So first off, September, we are learning about Switzerland, and so we're going to be reading Swiss Family Robinson, which I have loved. That has been one of those books that we have read a couple of different times just as my kids age out, and then I get new kids coming up and I will read it to them. It is a harder book, and yet they love it so much, and they love the details so much, and there's so much learning that goes on in there. That dad is straight up a fictional character. He knows everything, but it's really interesting to watch how he's like, oh yes, well that's bamboo, and this is how you can use bamboo to accomplish this goal that we need to in order to survive. And it's also such a problem-solving novel that nothing happens that they just throw their hands up and say, well that's it, guess we have to die here. They're always pushing and always trying to accomplish something new. And so I should tell you, my kids are 8 years old up through 13, although I will say that my 16-year-old said that if he can do anything with the family, he wants it to be the Family Read. And so he will probably join us for this as well. And as a result, we will probably do the Family Read more in the morning, even though typically we've left that to the afternoon. It will be easier to do it in the morning so that when we do break off and have them go do their own things, it's not a weird thing trying to pull them back at a random time during the day. So that's our September read. October is about pirates and the Spanish Main and everything. So we will be reading Peter Pan. This is not a book that I have read to my kids before, and so I don't know how it's going to go. I hope it's going to be a good experience. Obviously, Peter Pan is a lot of fun, and so we're looking forward to that. In November, we're going to jump back to U.S. history when we're learning about the kind of the rebellion period. And so we're going to read a book called Young Nathan, and that's about Nathan Hale, who is the one who famously was captured as a spy. And they said, you know, denounce your country. And he said, no way, I only regret that I have but one life to give. Wish I could give more. And so we're going to be reading his story. And I love those kind of things, those hero stories for my kids, to be able to say, you can do hard things, even if the consequences are dire, you can still do hard things. And so that is our November book. December, I don't know that we're going to spend a lot of time on this book. In fact, it may just get the boot because we have other books that we read as a tradition in our family. We read The Mansion and we read A Christmas Carol, and that generally takes up the whole month of December. If, in addition to that, we have a little bit of extra time, I've written down that we're going to read Archimedes and the Door of Science. We'll see. I think probably we won't get to that. Moving on to January, we're going to read Johnny Tremaine, and this is another American history hero, somebody who made some mistakes and made some bad decisions, but found himself really caught up in a lot of the rebellions the leadership of the rebellion, and he finds that he is a better person when he's trying to be I don't want to say rebellious because that's not quite right, but when he's trying to stand up for good things and to be noble and brave and courageous, even if that's not the popular thing to do, that he is a better person and he's happier and he's capable of doing really hard things. And he has a great friend in that book where he just won't feel sorry for him at all, because at some point he gets his hand burnt and it gets it all tied in because it kind of melted. And so he's not capable of doing a whole lot of things, but this friend just is like, but you can ride a horse, up you get, let's go do things. And he just makes such a powerful argument for life can keep going and life can still have a great deal of meaning even if you've had a really hard thing happen to you. And so I love that book. I have read it to many of my kids many times, but it's just one of those books that I can read over and over and not feel bored by it. Whereas there are a lot of books out there that get boring. And so this one is, I would say this is a classic because I keep coming back to it and keep feeling like there's more that I can learn from reading this. So for February, actually in the Well-Educated Heart, she's studying the Holy Land. I mean, this is her schedule, is to study the Holy Land. And in that, you're studying a lot about Jesus. Well, we're going to be reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe again, because it's one of those books that just doesn't get old. We just love that book. And that's because that is about Jesus. Aslan is actually Jesus in there. And you can see, Peter is the oldest boy and he becomes the leader. And you can see a lot of Christianity through the lens of this book. And he meant it to be that way. C.S. Lewis wrote that book as an allegory about Christianity. And so there's a lot there, and it's just a fun adventure read. Even if they don't get any of that kind of stuff, they just still have so much fun getting to know the characters. And so we will be reading that for February. And then in March, American history, we're going to read Little House in the Big Woods, because it's kind of that pioneer time of life, and we're going to be studying about the people who are making sugar salt and all the different things that happen in that book. It's just a really cute book that, in my opinion, every little kid should read, because it's just such a wonderful story about what we are as Americans, what we can become, and how we can behave, how we behave on a daily level that helps us behave as good people as we get older. So in April, we're going to read Little Men. Now, if I had more girls, we would probably read Little Women. And I've had my boys act in the play Little Women before, so it's not like they don't know the story. But those who know both the story of Little Men and Little Women have said they much prefer Little Men. There's so much more adventure in Little Men. There's so many more relatable stories for boys in that book. And so I really enjoy reading Little Men to them. I have not read that one yet to my little kids, and so it's going to be a new book for them, but it's definitely a repeat for some of my older kids. And that is it. We will have other books that we read through May, June, and July, but they tend to be not connected to any sort of a timeline, and they're also kind of adventure books and a little bit more light and fluffy. Although I will say, I had planned on doing a lot of light and fluffy books throughout the summer, and it's just yuck. It wasn't fun to read those kind of books. And so we went back and we did The Wizard of Oz, and we did, I can't remember which other one, but we ended up reading some classics, because those books, here's just the honest truth, after reading those books for a while, I just can't go back to the other ones because I feel like it's just a waste of time and space. And these books that were written in the classic period are just, they have so much in them that makes it so enjoyable to read and to come back to over and over again. And so I don't know that we're going to do adventure stories like we did this year anymore. We might just jump right into adventure stories, but more the classics. Maybe we'll read Moby Dick or something. Maybe not, that one's a little heavy, but I'm just saying that it was eye-opening to me this summer that as we tried to read through some of those books that I used to really think were awesome, it wasn't very fun. I didn't enjoy it. The kids were like, they're okay. But as soon as I picked up The Wizard of Oz, man, they were just right there paying attention. They were so fascinated by that story. So there's just a plug for doing classics as well. But those are the books that we're going to be reading for this year, and I hope that helps. You are doing really, really important things as a mom and a dad, and you're doing much better than you think you are. Keep it up, and I will see you on the next one.